Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. That noted philanthropist, famous humanitarian and all-round good guy, Humza Yousaf, has written to the UK government imploring them to intervene with Israel to create a safe haven corridor to allow innocent civilians out of Gaza. What he actually means is, please get my family out to screw everyone else. He also, it was noted, didn't appeal for the hostages to be released. He only cares about innocent civilians. But it appears after the 900 or so were slaughtered by Hamas that innocent civilians in his mind simply means innocent Muslim civilians. He obviously doesn't care about Jews. Well, that is taken as read, isn't it? He's been told not to by his mosque. And so there he is, appealing to the country he hates so much. The UK, please go and get mummy and daddy out because my wife needs her family. Meanwhile, he puts everyone else into misery and poverty without a second thought. And it's funny how he can't do this himself. He can't intervene with Israel himself, can he? Why not? Why can't he ask Israel to do this? Oh yes, that's why. Let's look at this piece, let's see what's going on and see why this hypocritical, two-faced twonk has to beg the mother of all parliaments to intervene on his family's behalf. Here goes. So, Humza Yousaf calls on UK government to plea for Israeli ceasefire, allowing Gaza civilians to leave. He wasn't so keen on Jewish civilians leaving when Hamas went in and slaughtered 900 of them. And the more I read about that, the worse it gets. And when they were beheading children, beheading babies. They were taking babies from their mothers and beheading the babies in front of the mothers. That's Hamas. That's what they were doing. Let's be honest, that's what they were doing. And then you get creatures like Maggie Chapman standing up and saying, oh, well, it's fine. I stand with Hamas. Hamas are great. It goes exactly, tells you exactly about the Greens, that bunch of far left extremist, hate-filled extremists. And of course, he hasn't fired the Greens. So he agrees with them. He agrees with the slaughter of these babies. And now, of course, now that that's come out and the world has seen exactly what Hamas are, exactly what Gaza is, now it's like, oh, we've got to let the civilians out. Oh, yeah. He means mummy and daddy, her mummy and daddy. Got to get them out. Doesn't give a shit about the rest of them, you know. He only wants his wife's family out. The rest of them can go boil. He don't care. And yet he's aligning himself with these people. He's aligning himself with the Greens and that vertical turd Chapman. So we know exactly what he is. We know exactly where his loyalties lie. And his loyalties do not lie with the majority of the people of Scotland. So he does need to go. And so do the Greens. They need to never be allowed to have power. I think not only... I mean, the Greens are calling for Hamas to be taken off their tourist list. I think the Greens need to be added to it. I think that the Green Party must be seen now as an unacceptable party. They must be seen as extremists and they must be a banned organisation immediately. And anyone who aligns with them must be disbarred from ever holding public office. And that piece of human filth there certainly needs to be thrown out at the earliest opportunity. And hopefully the people in the... in Aberdeen at the convention next week or this weekend, whatever, take the opportunity to throw him out of office and get rid of his hate-filled, anti-humanitarian views and the things that he stands for and agrees with. Piece of filth that he is. Humza Yousaf has written to the UK government asking for the Foreign Secretary to call on Israel to put in place an immediate ceasefire to allow his parents-in-law, his mother-in-law and father-in-law, access out of Gaza. He doesn't care about the rest. He's claiming it's to allow everyone out. It's not. It's just those two. He doesn't care about the rest. The SNP leader shared the news that his wife Nadia El Nakla, a woman who won't take his name, travelled to Gaza from Dundee about a week ago to visit an elderly relative. Mr. Yousaf's brother-in-law, his wife and kids, all under the age of 7, are also living there with a 2-month-old baby. I wonder if that 2-month-old baby still has his head. There's a lot of Jewish children that no longer do because of people that he admires and likes. The outbreak of war following a devastating attack from the group Hamas has escalated with retaliation from Israel, who've launched rockets into Palestinian territory. They're also massing all their tanks on the border. I think they're going in soon. And if the people of Gaza want to have peace, they need to hand over every single member of Hamas, alive or dead. I don't think it matters to the Jewish authorities too much. And then beg on their bended knees for the Jews of the Jewish army, the Israeli army, should I say, to please not go in and do to them what they did to innocent Jewish children. In a letter to the Foreign Secretary James Cleverly, Mr. Yousaf wrote, "As a close friend and ally of Israel, I therefore ask the UK government to call on the government of Israel to ensure innocent civilians are protected and to put in place an immediate ceasefire to allow the safe passage of civilians through the Rafah border." These would be the same people who did to innocent civilians what he's asking the Israelis not to do. A bit late for that, isn't it, Mr. 3 days? 3 days before you could condemn it. 3 days before someone told you the words to say. 3 days before you got permission from your mosque to condemn Hamas. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has already said that his government's support for Israel was unequivocal, as he too condemned the attacks that have led to over 1,000 Israeli deaths to date. Oh, it's gone over the 1,000 now. It was 900 when I last looked. He said, "There are not two sides to these events. There is no question of balance. I stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. The United Kingdom stands with Israel." There is a thing that says that regardless of the politics, when it is the barbarian against the civilized man, you always stand with the civilized man. And these barbarians that are from the Gaza Strip, which is filled with barbarians, they've done this. These people did this. They have to pay the price. More than 700 people have been killed by Israeli strikes, Palestinian authorities say. Well, there always is a day of reckoning, isn't there? Mr. Yousaf said, "Too many innocent people have already lost their lives as a consequence of these completely unjustifiable and illegitimate attacks by Hamas. However, innocent men and women and children cannot and should not pay the price for the actions of this group." Oh, but 1,000 have already. "Collective punishment of innocent civilians cannot be justified and will do nothing to set the conditions for peace in the region." There is no peace in the region. If you want peace in the region, you get the Muslims to put their weapons down. Because if Israel puts its weapons down, there'll be no Israel. If the Muslims put their weapons down, there'll be peace. You need to ask yourself why your religion is so constantly at war with everyone else. Why is your religion so loathed? Why does nobody trust you? Why are you the religion of intolerance and hate? He raised calls from the United Nations Secretary General, who asked for relevant parties to allow UN access to deliver urgent humanitarian assistance to Palestinian civilians trapped and helpless in the Gaza Strip. Now, the civilians there, quite easy, have a very easy way out. They hand Hamas over. They hand every single Hamas person over for very swift justice at the end of a rope. That's what needs to happen. And let the bodies rot on the ropes so that everyone in Gaza can see what happens when you do this. When you go to Hamas, that is what happens. You cannot let these people get away with it. Give a mouse a biscuit, he'll want a glass of milk. And if you do not stem this, it gets worse. The only way you stem it is to cauterize it. And the only way to cauterize it is with a lot of heat. And that is what Israel is finally doing. They've had it for years, and they've finally had enough. And after what happened, who can blame them? He said, furthermore, it should open a humanitarian corridor into Gaza to allow supplies, he said, including food, water and medical supplies, for those civilians who are trapped, helpless and cannot leave. Finally, I call on the international community to be proactive and to work towards an immediate ceasefire and a long-lasting peace that sees Israelis and Palestinians treated as equals. The easiest way, pick up every Palestinian and hand them over and put them into a friendly Muslim country. I'm sure Iran would be glad to have them. After all, Iran is funding Hamas. So Iran must really like the Palestinians. So let's put the Palestinians into Iran, and I'm sure they'll all be very, very happy. According to the reports from the BBC, who still won't call, the BBC are the worst of all, the BBC still won't call Hamas a terrorist organisation. They call them militants and soldiers of Hamas and things like that. They've seen what's happened and they still won't call them tourists. Anyway, according to reports from the BBC, the Rafah crossing in southern Gaza currently is the only way out of the blockaded territory. And it's been operating this morning, but only for those who had their names listed before recent fighting. Speaking on BBC's Breakfast, Mr Cleverly said, the question of security for British Jews in the UK is a priority. He said it was discussed at an emergency COBRA meeting chaired by the Prime Minister on Monday, and he knew Home Secretary Suella Braverman felt very, very strongly about the community's safety and was taking action. This comes amid pro-Palestinian gatherings in London, and every one of them should have been arrested for being hate. You know, that's a hate crime. The UK government has been contacted for comment, but none has come. Well, there we go. He's begging the UK government just to get his family out. He don't care about the rest. He just wants his family out to please his wife. What a shame. This is what happens, yeah? Fuck about and find out is a saying now. It's a thing. You know, you can Google it. Fuck about and find out. Well, they fucked about and they're finding out. And good on them. Anyway, I shall round off there and come up. Love the way he tries to convince it's all about all the civilians. It's all the civilians, and we know full well it's about two civilians. It's about her mum and her dad. He don't care about anyone else. Psychopaths and idiots. And he takes us all for fools. And ultimately, of course, he has to go to the UK, the country he so desperately leaves. Imagine if Scotland had independence and he was the FM, the First Minister of an independent Scotland. Who would he go to then? He couldn't go to Britain, that's a foreign country. And he'd have to go to Israel himself. And being who he is, Israel would tell him, away and boil your head. It's funny, isn't it? What an ineffectual little shit of a man he truly is. And he shows himself to be an even bigger shit every day. I've got no time for him. And with his standing, his views, his standing with Maggie Chapman and all, and what she represents, goes to show he doesn't care about anyone other than himself and his own family. He certainly doesn't care about the likes of you or me. Anyway, I shall finish there. We all know what he is. We all know what he's like. And we all hope that it all ends badly for him. Roll on the conference. Let's see who stands. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been educational, if nothing else. I hope it's been entertaining. And I hope it's earned a subscription. And until next time, stay safe, stay well. And let's all forget that Humza Yousaf is a floating turd in the great miasma of shit lake that is Scottish politics. Till next time, bye-bye.